Hello peoples! I am Lisa Young Sutton and this is video number 6, part 1 of the Core Foundational Series, Grand Tableaus 101. Now, in this series, I presented the videos in a specific order. Each video presents information in layers and should be watched in order. So each layer introduces information that builds upon the information of the previous layer. So what I am suggesting to you is don't make the mistake of trying to run before you can walk. So if you haven't already done so, watch each video in order. And here's the important part, don't just watch each video, but put the lessons of each video into practice immediately. Do it when you are inspired to do it. Don't just write yourself a note to do it later. Do it while you're inspired. 15 minutes of inspired action is more valuable than several hours of uninspired action. So no procrastinating. If you feel your brain cells popping open and you have one of those aha moments, one of those moments when you say, oh, I'm getting this, that's when you want to put that learning into practice. Waiting until later often sends you back to square one. So as soon as you understand something, as soon as you hear me say something or watch me do something in these videos and you're like, oh, wait, I'm getting that now, or that just answered a question I've had forever, you know. Write it out in your own words. Or if you're one of those people who listens to me while they drive to work, pause the video and send yourself a voice message. I do it all the time. I'm out, you know, well, you know, I don't drive a whole lot. I'm out walking in the woods usually, and I'll get an idea. And I use voice on my phone to text myself. I just, you know, send myself a voice text. Anyway, okay, or if possible, put the new learning into practice right away with your cards. Get your cards out. You know, if you're watching my video and you're sitting at your table and you got your cards, just make up a scenario, make up a person that you're reading for, or make up a question, or if you have a real question, even better. But my point is just right away put it into practice. Okay, now, let me just quickly recap all the videos in this series. Video 1 is imperative. If you don't have a firm understanding of your primary vibes, then it matters not what spreads or techniques you use. People are applying techniques such as shadow cards and reversals and astrology and numerology and all kinds of stuff, right? And I, for one, love creativity, and I too enjoy testing the waters, but I truly feel that everyone should at least learn the traditional system for this deck because it's so perfect in its design and it will lay the proper foundation which you can then build upon using whatever techniques you want. So I'm really, you know, trying to get everybody to embrace this original, traditional, whatever you want to call it, system. Hang on, I got to take a drink. Okay. Now, speaking of the traditional system, even houses are not part of the traditional system. People who come from a tarot background are already very comfortable using spreads with designated placement meanings. So if you have a place setting that has a particular meaning or asks a question, and then you laid the card there, the card that falls there provides the answer, right? But that's not Tableau reading. That is not what these cards were designed for, and that's not the beauty of the Tableau system that these cards are perfect for. Okay, then there are, speaking of houses still, right, there are also people who use the game of hope, das Spiel der Hoffnung, right, for divination. This, of course, was the game that Johann Hechtel designed this deck for. It wasn't until 50 years later, after the death of Marie Lenormand, that the deck was repurposed under her name along with the Grand Jeu Lenormand system. Okay, both were named after her after she died for marketing purposes. She never used either system. All right, so let's clear that up too. Now back to the game. The game, for those of you who have this deck, here it is, Das Spiel der Hoffnung, right? This was the original game of hope. Now, for those of you who have this, get out that little booklet. All right, I'm going to read something from it in a moment. Okay, so the game was originally played by laying out the cards in order from 1 to 36. All right, here I'm going to, let's see if I did this right. Hey, Maria. Maria, I keep forgetting to order a wireless microphone. And, you know, it's not that I can't buy one. It's, you know, it's just a matter of getting me to remember to do these things. I know I need one. Okay, anyway, all right. Here's the original 6x6 format to play the game of hope, right? The cards were laid out in order of 1 to 36. And you had tokens for the players, and you used dice, or was it a single die? I can't remember. But anyway, it was probably a single die because, you know, you don't have too many spaces here. And you moved through the board, and it's very much like Milton Bradley's Game of Life. Okay, so anyway, some people use this game idea to create a house board and then lay the shuffled cards on the houses, you know, for divination, right? So there again, you're using houses. But that's not the traditional method, because here we go. Here's the little booklet that came with this, right? I'm just going to read this to you. With these same cards, it is also possible to play an entertaining game of oracles, right? That's divination, right? By shuffling the 36 cards and then letting the person for whom the oracles meant cut the cards, then laying out the cards in 5 rows with 4 rows at 8 cards each, and the 5th row with the remaining 4 cards. So right from the beginning, the 8x4 plus 4 format has always been the one suggested for divination, right? Not the 6x6. If the person querying is a woman, one starts from sheet 29, or, you know, card 29, spinning a jocular tale from the cards nearby around the figures on display. If for a man, blah, 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 same thing. Okay, so what do we know from this? These are the original game instructions, right? Predates the Philippe Lenormand sheet by 50 years. Still tells you if you're going to use these cards for divination, lay them out in an 8x4 plus 4 format. And it also tells you to use the method of distance. I just read it. If you're reading for a woman, you find her card and you read the cards surrounding her. You spin a jocular tale from the cards nearby, right? So there you go. Right from the beginning, the method for these cards was the method of distance, not houses, and not a 6x6. It was the 8x4 plus 4. Okay. That is that. Okay, so let me get back to a recap of the videos. Yeah, so video 1, as I said, master your primary vibes or core functions. You got to get a handle on those before you can do anything else. Video 2 was where I introduced the 3-card line and the various ways to interpret it. Video 3 introduced you to vertical interactions with the 5-card cross. Video 4 introduces you to diagonal interactions and knighting with the smallest of the tableaus, the box spread. Then in video 5, I used the 25-card Petit tableau to introduce you to mirroring and the concept of clusters and constellations. So now you are ready for the ultimate use of these cards. The big dance, the big show, the big map, the grandest of the tableaus. Yay. Okay, so I want to give you some food for thought to chew on. So just listen. I know you haven't really had much to look at so far. This is an audio lesson, but just sit back and listen to this. The Petit Lenormand system is a language whereby each card relates not to a single word, but to a function, a topic, or a theme. If you attempt to only attach keywords to these cards in lieu of understanding their core functions. You'll be forced to consult keyword lists, or worse, those dreaded combination lists. Look, I can't even say it without making a smirky face. Forever trying to find the right word, or worse, the word you prefer. All of this analyzing and left brain activity will prevent your subconscious or your right brain from seeing the story that the cards are trying to impart. So get a handle on those primary vibes, those core functions first. Once you do that, you can then lay out the cards in any manner of arrangements and use predetermined guidelines to decipher that arrangement. Now, what are these arrangements I'm talking about? That's what we call spreads, an arrangement of the cards, right? And our interpretation guidelines is our frame of reference. Otherwise, you're just staring at a bunch of cards in front of you. You have to start with a frame of reference as to how you will be interpreting those cards, how you will be reading that story. I call it my plan of attack, all right? So what is Tableau style reading? It's creating stories by laying a card arrangement that creates a map to follow. In Tableaus, proximity trumps card order, and proximity trumps directional cues and houses if used, right? Okay, so proximity, constellations of theme cards, and following lines or paths is the name of the game. Now, hang on. Let me just pull up. Here, let me bring the... Oh, no. Okay. Well, there you go. God, you got to hear me snort and everything. All right, anyway. Look what I just did. I'm such a ninny. Okay. So here we have our mess of a 9x4. Okay. Now notice when I cover the house names, it's because I'm using method of distance. If I were using houses, I would put the cards like that, right? So you could see the house names. But I don't want those house names distracting me because you don't use houses in the near far method. Well, traditionally you don't. I shouldn't say you don't because there are people that do. Okay, so here we have a 9x4, right? So what was I just saying now? What is Tableau style reading? It's where you create stories by laying the cards in an arrangement. Right here we have an arrangement of the cards. We have a 9x4, which gives you a map to follow. This is a map, okay? So what you are looking for are cards surrounding your seeker's card. Say this is the seeker. So you're looking for where she lands, what cards surround her. You're also looking for what cards connect her to any pertinent cards. What are pertinent cards? Could be her partner card if she's in a relationship. Any of the life area cards, like the here's my work card, right? So what cards are between her and this card? How far is that card from her? What cards connect her to that card? Connecting cards, think of a like a graph, right? So what connects her to this card? The stork and the clover, okay? That kind of thing. Now think about your lines. You have your vertical columns, you have your horizontal rows. That's called her line of sight, but I also look at her vertical column. I definitely, if she's the seeker, she gets the horizontal row, and her partner then would get the vertical column, and I would read his column as his line of sight, her row as her line of sight, and then I would have connecting cards for them, okay? We also have diagonal lines, right? You can even follow diagonal lines back up. You can take it down, right? See where it goes. That is Tableau style reading, okay? You're also looking for constellations of themed cards. Theme groups are called clusters, right? So cards of a cluster would be like all of the health-related cards, all of the work-related cards, the cluster of adversaries, are all of those cards that are out to get you, right? So you want to see, are any of those forming a group together, which we call a constellation. You're looking for all of these details when you look at this map. Okay? Woo! Okay, so speaking of formats, as I've already mentioned, there are different formats that you can lay, all right? Now here we have a 9x4, and this is actually the format I started with, only because when I first looked at an 8x4 plus 4, I didn't like the look of those 4 cards just hanging out there, down there on the bottom by themselves. I was like, what am I supposed to do with them? So I started with the 9x4, but then I didn't use it very long because I started studying with Bjorn Uris, and he, of course, uses the 8x4 plus 4, so I switched to that, and I never went back, and there's a reason for that. But I'll get into that in a second. But you can see the 9x4 is a nice, neat rectangle, right? Now, if you want a fate line, where is your fate line here? It's your middle column, right here. Okay, so now instead of a horizontal fate line, you have a vertical fate line going right down the middle, because if you look, you have 9 cards across, right? So these cards mirror, these cards mirror each other, these cards mirror each other, and these cards mirror each other. And then you know, here's this the odd column out here. That makes that the fate line, and all the other cards are grouped around it. So rather than all the cards being on top of it, they're all kind of fencing it in, so to speak. So there it is. Okay, so some people prefer this format, and that's fine. There's also some people that use this 6x6 format. I tried this for a while, and it just did not flow for me, so it's not for me. If it's for you, go ahead and use it. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It's whatever works for you. Okay? But there's a good reason to stick with one. Here, let me get my 8x4 plus 4 up here. Hey, I did it without knocking. Go me. All right. Okay, so I mean, the 8x4 plus 4, I know I talked about this in another video. It came from, originally it was just an 8x4 because the 32 card strip decks were popular at the time. And then when they started using 36 card decks, they just added the extra 4 cards at the bottom. So, you know, that was the whole reason for that. But, you know, like I said, you can choose any format that sticks to you, but by choosing one and sticking with it, it allows it to become familiar. Now, when you become familiar with a particular format, your eyes just automatically know where to look, and your readings will really flow. And if you do use houses, you'll have them memorized in no time. You won't even need one of these mats, you know, because you'll have counted this out so many times that you'll start to know exactly where those houses are. All right, so you know, I use nothing but the 8x4 plus 4 now, and every once in a while somebody will say, oh, could you, you know, make a video with an 9x4 or something? And I'll go and I'm like, oh, geez, I don't know this. And it just slows me down. And anything that interferes with my flow, anytime it takes me out of that reading mode and I have to start, I just call it my using left brain thinking, it halts my flow. So I never want to have to stop and think about what I'm doing. I just want to let my eyes go and you know. So I mean, it's really, think about it. It's much like driving a car, right? Like when you first learned to drive a car, you had to stop and think about everything you did. And after a while, I doubt that any of you now think about how to drive a car. You just get in and do it. So that's the purpose of sticking to one format. You will, it'll become autopilot. All right. So interpreting tableaus is nothing more than a combination of an organized system, right? Your frame of reference, your guidelines, okay? Along with reasoning ability, what makes sense, what fits into the context of the reading. And then intuition is like the icing on the cake, all right? So by getting organized and creating a standardized method of attack with repetition, you'll be able to run through a grand tableau with no effort, right? Okay, so speaking of a plan of attack, I am happy to share mine with you now. You can use it verbatim or allow it to inspire you to create your own method. So when I lay out a spread, the first thing that I do is I just let my eyes scan it, right? And I'm kind of giving my intuition just free rein here. And I just want to see what I see, and I'm taking notes the whole time. I'm taking notes on what I think the story is telling me, okay? I don't want to overanalyze anything at this point. I'm just kind of getting a general idea of what's where, what's around what, you know, where my seeker is, that kind of thing. But it's all very, you know, I don't want to say unofficial, but it's, I just kind of look at it and I'm taking notes, almost like automatic writing, okay? Not getting into any thought processes really, other than just allowing myself to see what I see. So I always start with that. For some, this would probably be a better last step than a first one, because some people may get too carried away and you know, fall down that proverbial rabbit hole and get all messed up and go in the wrong direction, you know, with their intuition. Whereby they might be, you know, you might just be using your own biases and your own thoughts and just making up a story, in other words. So for some people that might be a better last step. For me, it's my first step. Everybody is different, so try different things and see what fits best for you. Okay, so the next thing I do, now I get more organized. Now I'm getting into my system, and that's where I go through my standardized steps, where the next thing I do is I locate my seeker's card and the partner card if applicable. You know, if this person is in any kind of relationship at all, that makes the partner card applicable. I don't even see it here. I mean, it's here somewhere. And I'm just not, oh, here it is right here. Yeah, so, you know, you want to locate those cards, and you're really checking for what cards are immediately touching them. Or let's just focus on the seeker. What cards are immediately touching her? You know, like here's my work card, so we know that work is an issue for her during this time period, right? And I'm looking to see where she is. Now she's in the top row, but she's almost at the end of the spread. So what is the best placement for your seeker? The best position is near the top or at the top, but to the left if you're reading left to right. And why is that? Well, that's because if the cards above carry more weight and are exerting pressure on the cards below, then it stands to reason that you want to be on top. You want your card to be on top. You want to be large and in charge, right? You don't want things weighing on you. You want to be weighing on things, right? So now why do you want more cards ahead of you than behind you? Why would I prefer to see her over here? Well, I could describe it this way. I like to think of, you know, dogs herding sheep or cattle, or driving a horse-drawn carriage, right? The one behind is driving the energy forward, okay? The one behind is spurring those on that are ahead of them. The one behind is in charge, okay? You want to be the one holding the reins, okay? You want to be over here driving the horses forward, okay? You don't want the horses driving you, all right? So I like to say that you want to be facing what's ahead of you. And the only problem with describing it that way is people are thrown off by the images, because if she's the seeker, she's actually facing this way. So if I said I prefer to see her over here so that she's facing what's ahead of her, people are looking at the image and saying, well, she's facing this way. That's why you do not want to let these images sway you. You don't want to let the pictures influence you, okay? If you're reading left to right, then she is heading to the right, all right? Even though she's facing this way, this is ahead of her, okay? All right. Okay, so I then check my corners, I make a story out of my corners. I make a story out of my center 4. Some people prefer the first 3. I use the traditional center 4. And I check my bottom line, okay? Then I look for any constellations of themed cards. You know, I look to see where all my life area cards are that I might want to read around. And through this entire process, I'm taking notes. I'm writing down everything I see without over-analyzing anything, because I want to keep that flow, the flow of the reading moving smoothly, right? But the final step is where I go to all of my notes, and that's when I'm going to do some analyzing, and that's when I'm going to take all of those notes and I'm going to turn them into a story using everyday language. Now, when I read for another card reader, I include card meanings and all kinds of, jargon, right? When I am reading for a non-card reader, I leave all that out. They don't know about it. They don't want to know about it. It will confuse them. They don't care. Just leave out the jargon and talk to them just like you are talking to, just like you're talking to another person, which you are, right? Leave out the jargon unless you are reading for another card reader, okay? All right, so now that's it for part 1 of this video. In part 2, I am going to lay a GT that a friend just sent me, and I'm going to run through all the steps as I just described them. So we'll actually I'll break it down in front of you, and kind of like we'll be reading it together, okay? Now, in this video, I am going to link a bunch of GT videos in the description box, and I will label them as either method of distance, right, MOD, mod, right, or I will label them as houses to make it easy for you. All right, so let me just quickly tell you what decks these are. This is Terry Smith's Unforgettable Lenormand, and then let's see if I can do this without knocking my camera. Oh yeah, there we go. This is Terry Smith. Oh, it's Terry Smith Day. This is Terry Smith's Whisper Lenormand. I used both of these decks in my book. Oh, yeah, I got to show my book. Wait, hang on. My book needs to make a cameo appearance. Oh, and this is the Graven Chase Lenormand, cute deck. And this, I wanted to show you, has, this includes, what are these? Horoscope cards, astrology cards, right? You have the 12 signs. So if you want to include any kind of astrology thing, whatever, in your card reading, then this deck, the Graven Chase Lenormand, includes those cards. Okay, so again, my book, if you don't yet have it, go ahead and grab it. The Petit Lenormand Oracle by Lisa Young Sutton. I'm sorry, the Petit Lenormand. And I just wanted to show you that I do have a lot of Grand Tableau information in here. I'm just going to read it from here. So I start with baby steps toward Grand Tableau mastery, right? Then I go into Grand Tableau steps, position meanings in a Grand Tableau, house meanings. Then I have the method of distance section. Then I have a how am I doing Grand Tableau, a quick how am I doing Grand Tableau based on chaining houses. Let's play connect the dots. I don't even remember what that is, but I'm sure it's something great. Tips and steps for using extra cards in a Grand Tableau. So there's a lot of Grand Tableau stuff in here. Okay, that's it for today, my friends, and I will make part 2 of this final video, let's just say next week. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. Now go play with your cards. Bye.